It is your Classic Metal Show right here on theclassicmetalshow.com. The name of that tune is Love the Ones You Hate. The name of the album is When the World Becomes Undone, and it is fantastic. You definitely need to check it out. This is one of my favorite bands out there that a lot of people, even 3 albums in, are not aware of. The name of the band is A Pale Horse Named Death. And on the line right now is the drummer, the lead singer, the main man himself, the guy that put this band together. You may know him as the drummer from Life of Agony or of Typo Negative, or he's been around for a lot of years creating great music, and he's still creating great music. It is Sal Abruscato. Sal, how are you, man?
Hi, Chris. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for doing this.
Sure, man. Well, Sal,
you're making me blush like a little girl. All that stuff you said, I was like almost in tears.
Well, I'm going to tell you a story that's a little bit sad, but not sad, but it's just a truth. I went through a pretty nasty emotional divorce in 2012. And as I went through it, and if you have either been through that or know anybody that's been through that, you know,
I've been divorced, yes.
Then you know, everybody tends to find music that just becomes their soundtrack to that whole period as they come through it. Well, my soundtrack was "And Hell Will Follow Me." I think I played.
So it's funny. That record I wrote during my divorce.
See, I guess we're connected in emotional pain then.
We are akin. Yes. Yeah.
But it's funny now, now that that's all over with, because what it did for me was it found me a band that was kind of, that wasn't trying to be happy, that was definitely dark and mean, but yet was listenable and was not, death metal or so heavy that it didn't make sense. It was a band that made sense then, and now listening as we've gone forward, you've done 2 records since, and they both are, in that same vein. And I guess for people that don't know, in my head, it's not like it's a huge stretch musically from your earlier days. It definitely has that Type O feel to it, but it has some Alice in Chains type of stuff. It's a little bit faster than Type O in places, and it has, some really cool guitar in a lot of places, but it's just a cool band, man. So for you, talk a little bit about the history of this, and we will definitely get into the new record, but talk about this because you've had such a long history. Talk about stepping out from 2 very successful bands to do it your own way and do your own thing.
I was kind of started out in baby steps. First, it started out as an idea where I was, going through a bad year. Like yourself, I was going through a divorce and stuff, and I was writing these ideas of, writing ideas, and I like hearing things come out the way I hear it in my head, and I said I'm going to try to, I'm going to play the guitar, I'm going to write everything, and I was programming, I was doing all kinds of stuff. I had all the melodies, and I was singing the stuff, and like most bands, they go through, to find a singer is very difficult, and to find like a singer that could fit into your ideas and genre or whatever you're looking to do is very difficult. And I just said, I think what I need to do, I've been like that guy that's been in the back, drums. I need to do music that is 100% what I like and what is me. So maybe I will just give it a shot. And I played these songs, demoed them for, at that time it was Matt Brown, who started working with me, an old friend, and then he was like, well, this is really good. Let's, why don't we record it? And the record, we actually recorded it as like a studio album idea, basically. Okay. I wasn't signed, didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I just wanted to get my ideas on tape and have it even for myself, like, hey, I did this, And one thing kind of led to another. I mean, again, I didn't have a band, really. I didn't have all that stuff going on. But then all of a sudden, kind of ended up in the hands of like SPV through a friend. Sure. And SPV Records, was like, oh my God, and it was the same year, like, basically that Peter died.
Right.
And I was heavily influenced and mentored by Peter, even as a musician, and I basically emulated. I learned how to orchestrate and write by just analyzing him. You know, even in my early days, I picked up the guitar and the bass in 1989 and 1990 because I just loved the way he got sounds, and I was like, I want to get those sounds in my house and jam, and that's awesome. And I just started playing. It was almost my release from being a drummer,
right?
Because I kind of would I get bored, you know. I get bored easily, you know. And in drums, you know, I've done my accomplishments as a drummer, but I wanted more. And one thing led to another, you know. Label was like, "Well, this is great. We want to sign you." Oh, really? Oh, shit. Okay, great. And then one thing led to another. Like, an agent friend of mine said, "Hey, do you want to do a show at Starland Ballroom, opening up for Monster Magnet?" I was like, "What? Are you crazy?" And was scrambling to put a band together. So I was at a barbecue at Johnny's house. He heard like the demo stuff, and he was like, "Dude, this is really good." And he called me. He said, "Look, if you ever do this live, give me a call. I'd love to play it. It's right up my alley. It sounds like the like Type O stuff, like
sure.
that we all do." And I was like, "Okay." And then when that all started hitting, I called him. You know, I called Eric Morgan, and at that time we had used Bobby Hamble from Biohazard had done a guest appearance on that demo, on that record, where he did some solos, but he wasn't in the band. He just showed up and did a guest appearance. So I called up Bob. He said, "Bob, I got to do a live show. You want to, like, come out and, like, learn the rest of the stuff and do?" And he was into it. So we actually, APH&D's first show was opening up for Monster Magnet with the lineup of Bobby Hamble, Johnny Kelly, Eric Morgan, Matt Brown, and myself. And we went over really good. And then we actually did a quick little tour that summer with Bobby Hamble and all of us in Europe. And it just started going from there. And you know what? I had a lot of confidence issues. Okay. I was pooping my pants, basically, about going up there live and singing in front of people. I was so self-conscious and shy that, you know, I was one of those bathroom singers like everybody else, you know, in the shower. You know, I was one of those guys behind closed doors. So when I did the vocals for the record, it was kind of like not that bad because I was in a dark room, you know, doing it. Right. Going live was a whole nother ballgame. But you know what? It was like jumping the fire, and over the years, I just kept getting better and better and better. And from touring, I got better. And then when we did the second record, I was even better. And then we went on tour with Danzig in the States, and I was doing European tours, and it went amazing, and I just kept on getting more confidence, now to the point where, like, now it's just like, you know, it's second nature. It's not a big deal. I don't care who's in front of me, because we were doing festivals. We did, you know, we headlined the tent at the Wacken Festival in front of 10,000 people in Germany. We did a bunch of festivals, so I was going up there singing in front of a lot of people after a while at these festivals. So it really was crunch time. It kind of taught me how to just look past them and just perform and not let anybody's facial expressions affect you and things like that. And, you know, here we are. You know, here we are. I had a little bit of a hiatus because I was involved doing other albums and stuff and touring. But I was getting tons of letters, and everybody was like, you know, when are you going to do another record? You have such a great band, and we love your voice. And I always find it a huge compliment that people kind of associate me sometimes with a little bit like Layne Staley, a little bit of Marilyn Manson. And I'm like, wow, what huge compliments. I mean, those guys are great, you know. And so I'm happy that people can tolerate tolerate it.
No doubt. Is it easy or does it hurt because let me put it this way. Everybody that hears this makes a comparison immediately. They'll either say Type O, they'll either say Alice in Chains, like you said, they'll say Layne Staley, they'll say Marilyn Manson. There's a lot of things to compare to, and I almost wonder, because it's not an established huge band, if that doesn't hurt you guys from finding your mark with an audience.
No, I don't think it hurts us because we do have a mark. We do have a different thing also going on stage than us. And I think the APH&D sound is a unique sound that was spawned and born from the Typo sound.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, for me to be compared to, first of all, the Friends, and then to be compared to somebody like Layne Staley or Marilyn Manson, for me, it's the biggest compliment in the world. Like I said, I'm really, I'm a down-to-earth guy. I'm very introvert. I'm very shy at times. So these are huge compliments. So I don't take it in any negative way, and I don't think it hurts the band in any way, because it gives the people, everyone needs to have like some kind of thread to hang on to relate to a band. So if that's what it takes them to get to put their foot in the door, oh, you know what, I like this. It reminds me of a little bit of Alice in Chains. If that's what it takes to get them to walk into the room and through the door of APH&D, then once they're inside, they're going to hear a lot more that's going on, and then they're actually going to just then be falling in love with the APH&D sound.
Sure.
So I think it's all good. I'm not one of those like hoity-toity guys that gets all bent out of shape. Oh, you compared me to, this and that, and no, I don't care. It's all great because you're comparing me to huge, amazing people. So it's not an insult at all.
Sure. And obviously, with you and Johnny being part of Typo, there's that connection as well. And, as unfortunate as it is with Peter passing, the fact that he did leaves a hole musically for your band, in the sense that Typo was so unique. Nobody says, oh, I like Typo and this that sounded like Typo. There was Typo, and that was it as far as that sound. And now you guys have some core elements to that sound, and you guys are the only ones doing it that I hear.
Well, it was a natural inheritance, basically.
Sure.
I got, listen, after Peter, first of all, aside from being around Peter starting at the age of 13, I started hanging out with Peter when I was 13 years old in 1983 because I was taking drum lessons from the drummer of Carnivore, Louis Beato. Right. And so he started taking me under his wing because he didn't have any brothers, so I was like his little brother. I was always at their rehearsals, so at a very young age, I was exposed to Peter playing. Right. And I was at that moment like in awe. And as soon as Carnivore broke up, I was like literally 18, 19. Well, they broke up in 87, but then like in 88, it was in 89, I just took a gander and I went to Peter's house and I knocked on his door. His father answered, who was also a huge man.
Sure.
I was like, hi, Mr. Raudich, is Peter home? He's downstairs and he's yelling at Peter, Peter, somebody's here,
Right.
And so, sit him down, Dad. I go downstairs to the basement because Peter had his place was in the basement of his parents' house, and he was laying there with a fresh haircut. He just took the police. He was working for the Parks Department, but he just took the police test.
Okay.
And he had short hair. And I was like, hey, man, what you doing, man? Oh, shit, why'd you cut your hair? Well, I got to get a job, all this shit. And I'm like, dude, you want to, I know you're not playing no more. He was like kind of done,
Right.
And I was like, you want to jam? You want to get together and jam? Well, maybe. I was thinking about doing a band with maybe some keyboards. I was thinking about talking to Josh, who lived only like 4 or 5 houses over. I said, really? I said, because, I've been hanging out with Kenny. Kenny's a buddy of mine, and he's in an okay band, but, maybe I can ask him if he wants to jam with us, too. We can have like a full band to jam with. And he thought it was a good idea. And then we had set up this meeting at a park in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And called Marine Park, and we met. It was in the summer of 89. And Peter tried to be all tough and stuff, and he was like, we're talking, and we're in the dark, from the street lamp lights, and right. He's like, I'll know in the first 5 minutes if this is going to work or not. Okay. And then we finally went into the studio, and we started jamming and playing some songs he had that would have been on the 3rd Carnivore album. And you know what? It sounded cool, right. And it was awesome. And from that moment on, it was like, yeah, okay. And we just started rehearsing. Next thing you knew, we were making the record, a demo, right. And we had about 4 or 5 different band names until we finally landed on Typo. We actually played shows we played a show called we were called Sub-Zero. There was one time we played a show we were called New Minority. Another show we played we were called Repulsion, and then finally we landed with Typo Negative, and that's how it really started. Nice. Really, that's that was the beginning of this whole Brooklyn thing that we were the heaviest thing on the planet at that moment. You know, it was all about noise, feedback, because the first record was really aggressive, really angry. He had a big bad breakup, and he was really angry. And again, having that lineage of Carnivore, shit was. I'm sorry, it was bad. It was bad booty. It was bad booty.
Nice. Well,
it was good.
Nice. Well, Sal, moving forward to the new record, When the World Becomes Undone, fantastic record. I'm going to say that it's different in one way, and hear me out before you comment on it, because when I first say it, it sounds a little condescending, but it's not. This is the most listenable of the three. And what I mean by that is I think that the other two you have to listen to from start to finish to get it. Where I think with this record, you can pull out a song here and you can pull out a song there, and you don't lose the impact of it. I think if you listen to either of the first two records and you just try to pull a song out of the middle somewhere, you don't get it. Does that make sense? It's like those are like a full musical presentation, where this one can be, or it can be, okay, well, here's a tune, and that fits in your life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. I think that allows it to actually have a little more potential success. I think it's your perception of the record, which is totally fine. And I was just talking to someone that said they can't listen to it without listening to it from start to finish. So, but I think what you're saying is also very good. It's a good thing, and I'm all for it, because that means that maybe this record will be the bigger of the three.
Okay.
I mean, again, we're still, we're kind of underground. We're not a big band or anything, but maybe this record will be the one that'll like take off a little more and get the band a little bit more onto the next plateau. So, I agree with anybody's perception of the record, as long as they get a positive experience out of it, and a good feeling, and enjoy the music. So what you're telling me is totally fine for me. It makes sense. Yes, it does.
Sure. Well, talk a little bit. I mean, you had a lot of turnover this time, and the name that struck me as, I guess, odd, and it shouldn't, because I've been doing this for 20 years, so I certainly know that guys can play outside of what they're known for. But Joe Taylor is not known for this kind of music at all. I mean, his history is what, Doro and Lita Ford and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And man, does he fit?
Joe is awesome. Joe is, let me tell you, I've got two of the best guitarists in the world. I mean, first of all, Joe Taylor, Matt Brown did not want to be involved in the band. I asked him 3 times last year. I was like, you sure you don't want to do this? Actually, in 2007, I was like, you sure you don't want to do this? I'm making a record, with or without you. Nope, I got other things going on. Okay, well, it just so happens that Joe Taylor, who lived in Germany for 8 years because he was in Doro for so long, he came back to America. He was working with a band called Cycle of Pain for a hot minute. And Eddie Heedles, the other guitarist in APH&D, is like kind of neighbors, like knows him, and they're friends. And when we were looking for somebody, we started trying people out. But he was like, I know Joe Taylor. Maybe he might be interested. And Joe came down and he played with us like he's been playing it for a long time. I mean, he's such a great learner, listener. He's very, very dedicated.
Sure.
And that guy, I mean, he does both of them do some of the most awesome solos on this record, and he fit in perfectly with his nice black hair and his awesome Les Pauls and Gibsons and stuff, and he just shreds the shit out of everything.
Right.
The old material, the new material, and then you have Eddie Heedles, who honestly, look, that guy, he's from Zakk Wylde's neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I will put him neck and neck with Zakk Wylde any day. He is literally the fastest guitarist I know. That guy, we call him Shredward instead of Edward.
Okay.
And although that type of playing is not really always the best fit for this kind of music, he does lay it out in like the end of Love the Ones You Hate.
Mm-hmm.
He lays it out like he kind of shreds it up. I mean, these two guys are phenomenal, but they're also different from each other, and I like the difference and the contrast. Joe is more of an old school old school kind of guitar lead player, and then Eddie's more of a more modern lead player where he can do Randy Rhoads solos without a problem. He can play anybody's solos he just knows everything. And they're both theoretically trained. They're fantastic. And to play with guys like that, it's a breath of fresh air. Along with my bassist, Eric Morgan, who literally is one of the best bassists I ever played with next to Peter. And then Johnny Kelly, who's done a hell of a job and has been basically, he had to meet up. He had to kind of take after me. So he had his plate full when he had to take over for me and Typo. But then working under me and dealing with me in this band, he's excelled. And, I'm so proud of his work ethics and how great he's at doing, playing this material because it's right up his alley. He was trained to play slow.
Right.
So, I have a great band, and I love these guys so much, and they're the last guys I'm going to be working with, if anything. I don't have no interest in working with anybody else, and Joe Taylor's awesome. We break his chops, we pick on him because he's a new guy, but
right.
He is an incredible musician, and I'm so happy and honored he's in the band.
No doubt, man. Well, dude, talk a little bit about what the year has in store for A Pale Horse Named Death. Is there touring that's going to be happening this year, or what's going on?
I'm in the middle of anything and people right now because I had a couple of agents that weren't doing anything really good, anything for me. So we just hired a new American agency, and we're already getting. We're going to be going to Canada. It looks like in May. We're doing a Canadian tour along with the Northeast.
Okay.
In May, dates will be soon to be announced once it's all wrapped up contractually. And then we're looking at maybe going a little south in towards the end of June into July. We're thinking about going down the East Coast. We're getting offers to go all the way down to Texas.
All right.
It really helped us when we did the Danzig tour a while back. We played 6 weeks. We toured with him all over the United States, and that really helped us because everyone remembers us still from all those shows. And we're going to Europe. We leave for Europe March 20th. We go to Europe for 3 weeks. We're going to do that tour, and we're trying to now schedule to see if we can get on board. One of the reasons why we're firing our European agents is we're not on board on some of these festivals over there in the summer, so we're trying to get on board with that, potentially go back in the fall for a couple of weeks, then hopefully around solstice time or after Christmas do another U.S. run. We're basically going to do in chunks the markets we haven't gotten to.
Okay.
We're all older guys. I've got a heavy responsibility. My middle daughter, for me, my wife, my middle daughter is disabled. So there's a lot of, as a special needs family, we have a lot of extra things to take care of. And I have a very large property here in upstate New York, which takes I'm like a farmer, basically. Okay. I got so much work, especially in the spring and summer to do. So the days of leaving for a 6-week tour, unless it's something incredible,
right,
are highly unlikely. What we're doing instead is we're doing 2-3 weeks, come home for a month, 2-3 weeks, come home for a month,
okay,
3 weeks go, and pretty much break it apart instead of doing it all in one shot. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So we're hoping to get to everyone's block, city eventually. And it's all based on demand and how well the record takes off. Hey, you never know. I've watched this industry change so much, so I don't know. I don't know what's in store for us, but
right,
if it's all positive, and whatever happens, we'll be posting and announcing.
Excellent, man. Well, the name of the new record is When the World Becomes Undone. It's A Pale Horse Named Death. And Sal, as a tradition on the show, we always let the artist pick a closing track from the new record, maybe tell us a story about it. So what would you like us to wrap this one up with?
Well, you know what? Did you play the title track yet on your show?
I have not.
When the piano line seems to group people, if I'd like to recommend you play When the World Becomes Undone, the title track, because it's so diverse, that song, as so many people have told me, and having the pretty piano and then the heavy crunching guitars and drums kick in, it's like a punch in the face. So maybe, I have a feeling your listeners will enjoy that little change for their day compared to other music. So I would recommend When the World Becomes Undone, the song, the title track by A Pale Horse Named Death.
All right, well, let's check it out right now. As Sal said, it is A Pale Horse Named Death right here on your Classic Metal Show.